Poisonees. Welcome to a very special bonus episode of The Poisoner's Cabinet, recorded on a very special trip to a very special location. Since starting this podcast, we have been sent images, memes, pictures, links, all pointing to one place, asking when are we going to visit? When were we going to go to Alnwick Poison Garden? And we have finally done it. The Alnwick Garden in Northumberland in England is well known throughout the world as being a beautiful contemporary garden that welcomes visitors, but one of its most popular attractions is the Poison Garden, known as possibly the world's deadliest garden, filled with hundreds of toxic and narcotic plants, some of the ones that you know and love from the Poisoner's Cabinet, as well as a whole host of others. It is guarded, it is gated, you cannot go in there without a tour guide, and you have to be very careful once inside, because a lot of what's in there can kill you. We were very lucky to be given a private tour with our wonderful tour guide, John Knox. You can check on the website, alnwickgarden.com, for information about visiting the Poison Garden. You can also buy paraphernalia that is associated with the garden, including books, bags, and their very own gin. While we were kindly hosted by Alnwick Garden, we were the ones who reached out to them for this trip, and we must say they treated us so well. The experience was 10 times better than we could have imagined. If you're in England, if you're thinking about visiting, don't hesitate, because the tour is not only wonderful, but it changes throughout the year as the garden changes itself. So this recording was done live with me and Nick and our tour guide. We had radio mics. What you will hear is us being guided around the garden and the tour guide pointing out particular plants as we pass them. And the thing about the Poison Garden, as you will hear from the story, is it can have a pretty profound effect on its visitors. In fact, it is famous for the number of people who faint inside the gates, and many people find the stories that come from the Poison Garden quite overwhelming, so just give yourself some breathing room while listening to the deadly tales. We hope that the information you are about to hear will absolutely solidify the key message in your head: do not mess around with nature. Do not go looking for poison or toxic plants. Do not think that you can handle them. Do not think that you can access any alleged benefits from nature's prettiest or ugliest plants. Just don't. You will not win. So enjoy this mere snippet of what you can see at the Poison Garden at Alnwick Garden. Well, Nick and I are in a very special location today. We have come to a certain kind of garden. Could it be the Poison Garden?
The Poison Garden, the very famous Poison Garden.
The very famous Poison Garden. We are joined by our fantastic guide, our private guide today. We are incredibly lucky and very grateful, John. And you're going to have to tell us how to pronounce the name of the location that we're in, because we've been getting it wrong all the way up in the car journey.
So this is the Alnwick Garden with the Poison Garden.
Alnwick Garden.
Alnwick Garden.
Alnwick, not Alnwick, not
No.
whatever I was saying in the car. John, thanks so much for today.
You're welcome.
You are going to take us around the Poison Garden. So could you give us just a bit of background of sort of, well, why do you have a Poison Garden at these? We're in the middle of these absolutely stunning, beautiful, resplendent with life grounds. And in the middle of it, you have a garden of death.
So when the Duchess was forming the idea for the whole garden, she was looking around Europe and seeing what else was out there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of places she went to, they had a physics garden or medicinal garden. And when kids were on tours around those, finding out plants that cured you this, cured you that, they were bored senseless. When she went to the Medici Garden in Padua in Italy, where they used to train assassins how to kill people, kids were fascinated, and Absolutely. the more gory the stories, the more the kids were locked in, and she thought, we'll have some of that.
Fantastic. That is excellent. So how long have the Poison Gardens been open?
So main gardens 2001, Poison Garden 2005.
So its birth was inspired by the most murderous, evil people,
Exactly.
all of the worst kinds of plants, which we particularly love,
Absolutely.
given that our speciality is talking about historic true crime involving poison, but also the madder stories are better.
That's the way we like it as well.
How long have you been working? at the
9
gardens?
years.
9 years. Have you fainted at all during this time?
Not fainted. I did have one incident with belladonna. We'd had a really, really hot spell, and that kind of supercharges the plants. And then it was lashing down with rain the following day. I was doing a special VIP tour like I'm doing with you guys, but with a couple of witches. And they really wanted to see the belladonna berries and the sepals around the berries kind of close in to protect them in the heavy rain.
Yeah.
So they asked could I pull them back so they could get a decent photo. Instead of coming back to our little hut to get the gloves, I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. Turns out it wasn't fine. Within a few minutes, my pupils got huge and my heart was going like a train.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
So I knew I wasn't going to faint because I didn't have, I knew I wasn't going to die because I didn't have that much.
Which is always a good thing to know.
The danger is when your heart goes back to normal, it lowers your blood pressure. And you can't faint. So I did the last 5 minutes of the tour sitting on the bench.
Oh my goodness.
Just in case.
We talk about belladonna a huge amount on the show. We'll talk about it more on the tour. One of our favourite poisons, I think. To have a modern experience with it, incredibly rare. Hopefully very rare. But lovely that your pupils dilated, because again, that's the thing that everyone knows about belladonna. Beautiful woman. Yeah. Did you actually feel...
Nobody said I was beautiful.
That's the thing. Did you feel like you were a lovely Italian woman
not at all.
with sort of weeping eyes?
It just went from being a really, really kind of grey overcast day to being really, really bright.
Oh my God, that's such an interesting fact, actually. That's crazy.
We'll do that.
Just before we go in, we've got rules, because it's Poison Garden. So the rules are no touching, no tasting, no picking.
Don't do that, Nick.
Okay, fair. Good
Keep
rules.
it nice and simple, no picking, no licking.
We won't be making a cocktail in the gardens, but okay, we're about to step through the doors.
Come on in.
Okay,
So we'll
we're
start
inside.
off with killer rhubarb.
Yay.
So rhubarb, and it's just regular rhubarb, nothing special about it. You can eat the stalks, stalks are fine. The danger's all in the leaves. So the leaves contain something called oxalic acid. Oxalic acid you normally find in paint stripper, car engine degreaser. The form it's in the leaves is microscopic toothpick-shaped crystals. And if you eat the leaves raw, those crystals are going to shred your mouth, your tongue, the back of your throat and your digestive tract. It's going to be a lot of blood, a lot of vomit, a lot of burning sensation.
Wow.
But if you cook it like it's cabbage, it softens all that up and it just slides down nice and easy, no harm done.
Would you want to risk it, though, really? That is the question.
Is it worth it?
Not really, but what happened was, in the First World War, they were struggling for food, so they put a leaflet out advising people to eat more from their gardens. And they thought because you cooked it, you didn't get the problem in the mouth anymore, you were safe. Not realising that it's a problem with your kidneys as well.
Oh.
When it gets to your kidneys, it basically pulls any free calcium from your body and deposits that in your kidneys as kidney stones really quickly. And that can kill you. You need to eat about 5 kilos, which is a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're eating it on a regular basis because the government's told you to have it to try and help out, kind of dig for victory sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there was at least 13 people died from it.
Wow.
A lot more in hospital with kidney problems, but at least 13 died. They withdrew the pamphlet when they realised what they'd done. Everybody completely forgot about it. 20 years later, when World War II breaks out, they reissue the exact same pamphlet, and there's at least another 5 dying. So that's why we call it the killer rhubarb.
Oh my goodness.
Fair.
I mean, it's worrying how many incidents there are actually through history of your government trying to kill you, thinking they were doing the right thing with various alcohols and things like this.
Always with the best intentions.
Always with the best intentions.
So next we've got nettles. So just stinging nettles, so they're not going to kill you. But when people get stung by nettles, it's actually 2 main poisons. There's several others in there, but the 2 main ones are formic acid, which causes the stinging effect, and histamine, which gives you the itchy rash. So if you're stung by nettles, what would you do?
Well,
So you go for a dock leaf,
dock
isn't it?
leaf. Yeah, rub yourself
So
down.
most people would say dock leaf. Couldn't be more wrong.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
It's my childhood ruined.
Lay a dock leaf on the skin and it feels lovely and cool, so that's good. But when you start rubbing it and it starts breaking apart, you get the juices come out. Those juices, same oxalic acid that's in the rhubarb leaf. So you're rubbing paint stripping acid on top of the nettle acid. You're making this thing last 5 or 6 times longer than it needs to.
Do you think this is an old wives' tale of just parents who are really annoyed at their children? Maybe.
That's what I say on the tour. And it's usually the mothers that pass it along, so... Best thing for a nettle sting, antihistamine if you've got it. If you haven't got that, mint toothpaste.
Mint toothpaste?
The mintiness, the menthol, fools the skin into thinking it's been cooled. That takes away the itch. The bicarbonate of soda, the bit that cleans your teeth, takes away the sting.
You see, we're educational on here as well as obsessed with death. That's good
That's
knowledge.
good to know. That's good to know. I like that.
So as we're walking through here, you mentioned before, in the Poison Garden, you showed us a wonderful plaque on the outside explaining how many people have had incidents within this garden. And obviously there were warnings beforehand. Why do people faint? You've had vomiters, you've had proposals, you've had incidents.
That's not our fault.
You can't blame me for that one.
So the fainting is, it's what they call the vasovagal response, the fight or flight response. So when we're telling the stories, it tends to be, don't want to put pressure on you, slightly more intelligent people and slightly more empathetic people.
We should be fine.
So when we're talking about the effect, people start thinking like, well, what if that was me? They're surrounded by that plant, what if that was me? And they start feeling physically what's going to happen to them,
Oh,
I'd assumed it was something to do with the plants themselves, sort of the combination of
So
fumes
in theory,
or
it
something.
could be. There's a couple of plants in here that if you sniff them at the wrong time of year, but you've literally got to get your head right in there and
yeah.
get a sniff, it can affect you. We get people fainting in December when there's very little active in the garden. There's definitely no smells as you're wandering around. And we get, proportionally, it's about the same people. It's roughly about 1 in 600.
See, we were outside with all these theories. We were just saying to our friends, like, yeah, I think it's the air and it's the dampness. It's like, no. It's, you feel really sensitive about it and sad.
So last year, 147.
Whoa.
This year so far, 115.
Is it a target to break each year? Do you have a little with
So
between
we're
the
not
guides?
like aiming for it, but if we get there, we'll had a little present for the guy that broke. So the previous year it was 143. When he got 144, that guy got a little present.
Oh, that's nice. Because of that empathetic, as you said, you described it far more eloquently, but that response that people have, I guess it's people of all ages or sort of sizes. And
the weird thing is, sort of pre-COVID, it was generally teenagers that were tall and skinny, especially, hadn't had breakfast. That's the main kind of commonality. If they've not had something to eat that day or the day before, it puts them in a kind of weakened state anyway.
Yeah.
After COVID, everybody's a wimp.
Love it. Great.
And we've had doctors, firefighters, policemen. It's like nothing special makes you invulnerable.
Yeah.
All sorts of like excuses they're probably given of why they passed out.
But we've never had a guide pass out.
Well, because you're used to it, I guess. Or
yeah, but we're in it all the time. So if there was something in here,
Yeah, absolutely. If there was something.
yeah, you'd be. Wouldn't be a good bit of PR for the gardens, would it?
I don't know. I think social media would love it.
So on to more residents of the Poison Garden.
So we've got hellebore. So this is Helleborus niger.
Yes.
Christmas rose. So with Christmas rose, the poison's in the roots. The roots contain a poison called helleborine, and helleborine, when it gets into your body, slows your heartbeat. Enough of it's going to stop your heart. But before that happens, it's going to make you vomit on a scale that you've never ever experienced before.
Oof.
So we discovered it in this country about 600 years ago. The rest of Europe had it much, much earlier, and we're using it for this reason much, much earlier. We put it to use to treat children that had tapeworm. So back then your meats were very dirty. You get tapeworm in the meat. It's not cooked properly, so the tapeworm's still alive when you eat it, or its eggs are at the very least. You eat it, it hatches or latches on when it's in your digestive tract, and it starts eating your food. They can quite easily grow 20 to 30 feet long.
Yeah.
Biggest one pulled out to somebody over 60 foot long.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody seems bothered about the 20 foot one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 20 foot. Oh, amateur.
So then what happens is it starts eating the kid's food. Bad enough for an adult, but for a kid, when the worm's eating the food, the kid's not getting any bigger. So the cure back then for a kid with a tapeworm was a nice cup of hellebore tea made from the roots of the plant. Give the kid the tea to drink, and 20 minutes later, they're thrown up like there's no tomorrow, and out in the vomit comes the tapeworm.
Comes the worm.
The problem is, if you make the tea too strong, stops the kid's heart and kills him. Then you make the tea weaker, but if you make it too weak, kid doesn't vomit strongly enough to get rid of the whole worm at once, and then you've got a kid doing a magic trick, pulling it out of the mouth a little bit at a time.
Well, there wasn't much telly on, I mean, you know, back then. That is charming. That would not probably make it into a subtle detective, like murder mystery story because of the projectile vomiting.
We'll move on to
Such a beautiful garden as well we're in as well.
the laburnum tree. So this is the second most poisonous tree in Britain.
Woohoo!
So laburnum, when it's in flower, beautiful yellow flowers hanging from it. And then when the flowers get pollinated, they turn into the seed pods. So most people think it's the seed pods are the poisonous bit. It's actually the least poisonous bit of the tree. Everything else on the tree is more poisonous. But kids don't tend to eat the branches and the bark.
True.
They tend to eat the seed pods because they look just like pea pods. Yeah. One pod will make a child sick for 12 to 24 hours. 3 or 4 pods can be enough to kill them. Usually it's more, but it can be as little as 3 or 4 pods. So what's going to happen is frothing of the mouth, vomiting, sleepiness, one pupil large, one pupil small. That's really, really easy to spot for the hospital. And it's really easy to treat. Usually either pump the stomachs, make them sick with ipecac, or activated charcoal to suck the poison up. And one of those 3 will do it. Because of that, there hasn't been an accidental death since the mid-70s in this country. Dogs and cats are the real danger these days. If a cat uses the bark as a scratching post, it can kill the cat when it cleans itself later. If you want to snap a branch off, give it to a dog to chew on. Take that dog chewing the stick for a walk around the gardens, it would drop dead before you'd finish the second lap.
I'm very much more worried about the dogs and cats actually telling the story. That's the first time I've actually gone, oh
most
God.
people are more worried about dogs and pets than they are their kids.
Yeah.
So we also got drug plants in here under license from the Home Office.
Okay.
So this is Catharodulus, or cat. It's a Class C drug in the UK.
That is in a cage.
Yeah.
Is in an actual cage.
So that's part of the licensing agreement, that we're only allowed to grow it, so that there's no way people can kind of take bits bits from it. And it's all got to be like recorded when we put it out, when we put it away, that there's not suddenly half of it missing and everybody's having fun down the pub. So with this, chew the leaves or the stems and it gives you an amphetamine or speed type high. Comes from the east coast of Africa. The main users are the Somalis, the Yemenis, the Ethiopians and the Kenyans. And they use it as a social lubricant, kind of like we would use alcohol, but they're mainly Muslim countries, so that's what they use instead of alcohol.
Oh.
And it's like having a really, really strong cup of coffee or a couple of cans of Red Bull every hour. Gives you that buzzy feeling, gets your heart racing, keeps you wide awake, makes you very chatty.
Okay.
Incredible.
So it's Class C, so that's the lowest level or the safer end of the drug scale, if you like. We've also got cannabis, which is Class B, opium poppies, where you get the Class A heroin from, but also morphine, and several hallucinogenic plants.
Ooh, okay. And you haven't had issues with any of the staff coming in and just going, let's just see. Officially. No, obviously not.
So why is it some plants are restricted like that and others which are quite happy to kill you? You can grow in your garden just cause?
Basically because this comes under the Psychoactive Drugs Act now. So it was only made illegal in about, I think, 2016, 2017.
Right.
Around about that time. It was going through Parliament and then there was delays with the Act. So I think it came in officially in 2017. So before that it was legal. When it was legal, they were getting, those communities that I mentioned in the UK were getting about 70, 75 tonne a week.
Wow.
Kind of flown across because it's got a very short shelf life.
Yeah.
Now it's illegal, they're still getting about 30 to 35 tonne a week.
So you have a drugs education program here as well.
It's all about like the educational side of it so they can make their own decision. Like just say no, it didn't work.
Yeah.
This is the reason why you should be thinking no straight away. And it's 700-800 kids a year we get through the program.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, to actually know where it comes from and what it's doing to you.
So this is oleander. So oleander is a Mediterranean plant. We struggle to grow it this far north, so we don't get the flowers. Every part of it's poisonous. The poison's called oleanderine. And if you go on holiday somewhere warm, this is literally everywhere. All along the roadsides, next to your hotel, next to your villa, next to your swimming pool. Very little water, very little maintenance, and it's got really pretty flowers. So they put it everywhere and just kind of forget about it. If you were to eat 2 leaves, you'd be dead in about 2 hours.
Wow.
It's going to stop your heart. The poison's called oleanderine, basically works straight on the heart, but it'll also cause breathing problems. But that's the least of your worries. Basically, if you walked into a hospital with a leaf, having just eaten a couple of leaves, they couldn't do anything in the time that they've got.
Seriously?
Wow.
Wow.
The branches are really straight, so if people are camping and they don't know better, I think that'll make an excellent skewer to cook a bit of meat over the campfire.
No way. Oh.
It does, but it's 50-50 whether you'll still be alive the next morning if you eat the meat.
Oh, camping is dangerous.
Even
Being outside is dangerous.
Being outside, I'm
Oh, it
really
is.
worried now.
Even if you burn it, the smoke can kill you.
Good God.
So it's really, really nasty. So in 2010, there was a lady in Florida. She found out her husband was having an affair. She was not happy, but she had an oleander plant at the bottom of the garden to help her out. She'd heard they were poisonous. She Googled how poisonous. Google comes back with 3 or 4 leaves will kill an adult. So to make sure, she cut off 6. She mixed it in with spaghetti bolognese, cooked it for the husband. And that was a mistake.
Oh.
Not the for the husband bit. Cooking.
That's when she really messed up.
Cooked the poison out. There was only about 10% left. Not enough to kill the husband, but it put him in a coma for a month. When he wakes from the coma, he forgives her, wouldn't press charges, so she's off scot-free. He moves back home with her when he comes out of the hospital, starts going to the gym to get himself back in shape after being in the coma for a month. Didn't ask if he was forgiven for the affair, and he wasn't. She spiked a sports drink with car antifreeze. He was dead 2 weeks later.
Oh, God.
2 lessons to learn from this story. For the men, if your wife poisons you and it doesn't kill you, you need to get away. She's going to do it again. And for the women, if at first you don't succeed, keep trying.
Good Lord.
Wow.
Yeah, being outside is terrifying. Everything can kill you. I mean, we've always said that, but that's a great story as well.
Brilliant.
Actually, very nice modern one we can do.
Wow.
We had someone feeling a bit sensitive there has already left. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, because this is while we're laughing about it, this is quite overwhelming because the things you're pointing out, like going, oh, this is just everywhere. But as you said, the practicalities of it, of like, oh, if you've got a stick, throw it for your dog, skewer for
It's
barbecue.
frightening how easily it can be mistaken for something, or you can just do it completely unknowingly.
And we kind of were tripping ourselves up, in effect. We have people waiting to come in because they've got to go around and get it too. Obviously, you can only get so many people in at a time. That hypes them up because they're having to wait for something.
Yeah.
And then you've got the locked gates, and it's all just adding to the tension.
I like the coffins as well. Okay, right.
Not just all year round.
The famous Atropa belladonna.
Yay.
So deadly nightshade.
We love her.
Whole plant's poisonous, but it's the berries people go for. 4 of those berries should kill a child, about 12 will kill an adult. And they taste really nice. They've got a very kind of cherry taste. You stick it in your mouth, you're going to keep eating it. And they tend to grow near farmland, generally, where you've got hedges, where you've got other berries growing. So if you're not watching what you're doing, you can quite easily pick the wrong one. And because it tastes nice, you just keep on going.
This is the closest we've ever gotten to belladonna, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think someone sent us belladonna seeds to grow at home. I'm not sure why.
Haven't tried it yet.
Belladonna used in the Victorian era as a cosmetic to make your eyes beautiful and watery, because that was the vogue at the time.
But there's problems with that. You're still getting the poison into your system through your eyes, so it can affect your heart. It's also, if you use it a lot, it can melt your eyeballs. And I don't care what anybody says, that's not sexy.
No, really, no, I would agree.
But the worst thing is...
There's a couple of people listening going, oh, I don't know. I'm just
The worst thing is you're using it to try and attract a guy. The way it works is it relaxes the eye muscles. That means you can't focus your eyes. If you can't focus your eyes, you can't see how good looking this guy is. It's like the Victorian equivalent of VR goggles.
I mean, they weren't the pick of the bunch, actually, back then. Being very pallid and languid and just sort of near to death was the vogue, really.
But the interesting thing with this is, and it really freaks everybody out when we talk about it, you wouldn't have this plant in your garden if you had kids. If you grow potatoes, it's basically the same plant. Potato plant's part of the nightshade family. You get potatoes at the bottom of it. Everything above ground is just as poisonous as this. If you ate 5 or 6 potato leaves, or you ate 5 or 6 of these leaves, you'd end up in hospital just the same, and they couldn't tell the difference.
Seriously.
Wow. I had no
I
idea
didn't
about
know.
that.
The berries are more potent. But okay, so again, don't touch any vegetables ever, plants, just don't.
And touching these and it's the same with all the nightshades. They're very soluble through the skin if your skin's wet.
You know, where we're standing at the moment, this is not in the cage. You can imagine, I'm sure probably has happened, people being cheeky and going, the compulsion to be close to death.
Straight on them.
I don't know, maybe that is people kind of going, I want to tempt fate.
I think it's
or
more
just to be cheeky.
When we do like the social media stuff on TikTok, you look at the comments and they're all, I couldn't go in there without touching. I can't go there because I'll want to touch. When people get in here, they're terrified of touching.
With good reason, yeah.
Absolutely. Part of me is always kind of like, oh yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm good.
Hands in pockets.
Yeah, no.
And the strange thing is, so it's normally the kids are like super, like almost sensitive to it. If they've got like a younger brother or sister, they'll keep them protected.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Yeah. It's really, that is interesting, like how people's demeanour changes when they come in here. Because again, you're surrounded by poison, things that can literally kill you within minutes.
So we've got the ruta graveolens down here. The poison that's in this is called furocormoran, and it's the exact same poison that's on the outside of giant hogweed.
Okay.
So if you break the stem of it and you get the juices on your skin, it strips your skin of its UV protection. And then when you go out in the sun after that, you're going to burn and blister. So we had an accident here a few years ago with one of the gardeners. Normally the gardeners, for everything, will wear gloves. For some of the plants, they'll wear like proper full enclosure suits. But she was just weeding around this, so not directly touching it, so she thought she was safe. Wearing gloves though, but it was a hot, still day, and she was kneeling down here, and one of the mobility scooters on a tour came past that and just bumped into her. And she just fell into it like that. Even though she knew to get it washed off straight away, which she did, by the next day, huge, great hanging burns and blisters.
Wow.
It's really, really nasty. And that means every time she goes out in the sun for the next several years, she's got to cover up.
Wow. It's interesting that different plants can get you in different ways.
Yeah.
Not just internally, but just through your skin.
And yet, when it's dried out, people use it as a herb.
Do they? Should they?
Well, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But saying that, we sell it in the shop, but it has got a little warning label.
We should get some of that.
Let's get some of that.
Do you have a lot of friends who call you when they're out and they should go, should I eat this ever? No. They don't want to know. Taking life into their own hands.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, well, very true.
Holly.
Yes.
So holly contains saponins, but also something called theobromine. Theobromine's the same poison that's in chocolate. Dark bitter chocolate's more poisonous than milky chocolate, but basically for every kilo you weigh, 100 grams of dark chocolate, can I say Bourneville? That's the one we did the calculation on.
Yeah.
So 100 grams of Bourneville will kill you.
Wow.
If you take 100 grams for every kilo that you weigh.
Oh my God. How many?
Okay.
That's math I can't do. Yeah. Yeah. So if you eat your body weight in chocolate several times over or something like that, or less than that.
So the average woman, apparently according to Google, is about 70 kilos. So it's about 70 bars of chocolate.
70 bars of chocolate. If you're having a really bad day.
If you're having a really bad day.
What we say
You're
is
going to have a worse day.
Because kids are much smaller, so they can hit their limit quite
A
quickly.
lot quicker.
Yes.
So like for a 20 kilo kid, it's only 20 bars of chocolate. Kids love chocolate.
Yeah.
And they'll keep going even if they've been sick because they really love chocolate. It is theoretically possible for a kid to have a fatal dose of chocolate.
So that's a good way of saying if you keep eating that chocolate, not only you'll be sick, you might die.
So we've got two ways of looking at it. The kid has to give half the chocolate to the parents to keep them safe. And then the parents is willing to take the risk. Or you've got to get fatter. And the fatter you are, the more chocolate you can eat.
Win-win. Yeah, I like it. It's a good one we always sort of talk about at Christmas, actually, about holly. You know, of all of the plants that you have around Christmas, like the holly, the poinsettias, the ivy,
it's ridiculous how
mistletoe,
poisonous Christmas is.
everything is just toxic. And people are putting it on their cakes
Yeah.
and they're just bringing it in like, oh, mistletoe,
lovely.
everything. Like, oh, God. So in the garden here, you have your wall. You do have your sort of your symbols up on your wall of death of some of the most famous poisoners. Is this sort of as facts, there's information sharing, or as a reminder of what can happen to you?
So what we found was, when we talked about poisons, everybody thought it was something like not basically past Victorian times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas these are all
Modern. Yeah, modern, as close as we can. With Georgi Markov, we have Harold Shipman. It's a case we haven't done yet because it's very modern, because we tend to go older. Very controversial.
We get
Very
one or two people a week that are
Yeah.
inside the circle that was affected by them.
wow.
So
Graham Young, the teacup poisoner, incredible case we did very early on, and still fascinates people and still makes
the fact that
people
he started so young.
so young and was able to keep going, and just his knowledge, his level of intelligence, obviously, of what he knew of the poisons, of what he was able to use in prison, and then later on still this utterly chilling case.
So we had one of his teachers on a tour once.
Wow.
We were really hoping it was his chemistry teacher, but it
No,
wasn't.
no.
It was his PE teacher.
I don't think the chemistry teacher would want to be shouting about that, but they...
And it was basically the year after I'd been sent to Broadmoor. There was one of the kids came in and he'd been absolutely terrible at PE. So in the previous year or so, all of a sudden he was on the rugby team. And the teacher was asking, well, what's changed between now and then? Because I'm getting like much bigger. Well, Graham's not poisonous anymore. So he was the one that was getting a cup of tea every day off Graham.
That is scary. It's interesting they came here,
Yeah.
that they wanted to come.
And
to
you
see the-
get people like that are involved in these cases, even like really on the fringes. They want to tell you the story.
Absolutely, we find it a lot, yeah, with people. As soon as they have a link to it, they want to tell the story, they want to share it. It is fascinating. We're all fascinated by true crime. It's the biggest genre, you know. It's why we have the show. But poison, I think, still has that mystery to it, even as it did back in the 1600s and the terror that was started in Italy and then in France. We can't control it. You know, we can control people and guns, apparently, and knives and things, but poison is just secretive and it's cowardly, but it's also...
And there's always planning involved.
Yes, it has to be premeditated. You don't accidentally just go... Well, you can. You can chuck that at someone, they'll probably throw it up, but really, to have a fatality. Good.
Medlar tree.
Oh, that. The thing we've been standing under.
Yeah.
Right, okay, good.
So
This is terrifying.
You've got the medlar tree, you've got the medlar fruit. This is one of them. So it's still quite firm. So across the whole summer, basically the way it starts is blossom in the spring. Bees or insects fertilise the blossom. That in effect makes the fruit pregnant. It seeds inside. Plant doesn't want to eat its seeds. That's the bit it's trying to protect because it's the next generation. So it protects them by forming cyanide around the outside of the seeds. There's also quite a bit in the meat of the fruit as well. Roughly about 20 would be enough to kill an adult if you were to eat them. They're rock solid at the minute. Or across the summer they're rock solid. When it gets to kind of now-ish, October, you start getting cold nights. When you get the cold nights, it goes through a process that they call bletting. And bletting basically chemically gets rid of all the cyanide. It makes the fruit go soft and squidgy, and then when they drop off, it's edible. It doesn't taste great. It's like eating applesauce that somebody spat in with bits of grit.
Oh, okay.
So it
We'll
is,
stay
it's
away
like it's
from
an
it.
acquired taste.
Yeah.
So what most people do is they'll sieve it and turn it into jam. And that's mainly what you use it for. But we've gone one extra and we've turned it last year's crop into a medlar gin, which we call the Poison Garden gin.
We should have to be
We will
experimenting
be-
with that.
We will definitely be getting some of that.
But it's also why people think, oh, this has cyanide in it for most of its life. But now, why would you even think of eating it later?
So with
There are other fruits.
Exactly. There's some lovely, lovely fruits that
So if you
aren't
go
trying
back to
kill
kind
you.
of Henry VIII's time,
Yeah.
we didn't have oranges and stuff, apples through the winter, but we had this.
I suppose, yes.
So once it starts to look as though it's going rotten, it doesn't kind of get any worse.
Yeah.
So you can kind of keep it going through the winter and you would have some fruit.
Be interesting to find out at what point they discovered that it was no longer poisonous. They're trying to eat it throughout the summer and go, no, can't have it in June, can't have it in July. October, oh, they're not dead yet.
That's what peasants are for.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a whole host of tasting people who are
coming into the castle. It's like, oh, wonderful, we've got an employment at the castle. Like, yep,
Try that.
okay, yeah. Oh, a lovely fruit. Yeah, keep an eye on him.
Well, we talk about that whole situation with potatoes. Like, the potato is not the obvious bit of the plant to eat.
Very true, yeah.
No.
So somebody's worked their way slowly down.
Yeah.
They were eating the potato raw, and you know what this needs? Butter.
So in the cage, the most poisonous plant in the world.
Woo.
Ricinus communis, or the castor bean plant.
Yes.
So we haven't done well with it this year. When we let it die out during the winter and replanted every spring. And we put it out a little bit early this year, and then it had a hard frost, and that kind of stunted the growth. It should normally be about 3/4 of that cage.
Wow.
On each plant, you would have between 50 and 100 of the red spiky balls, and inside each one, 3 castor beans. And on the surface of each bean is ricin. Ricin's 6,500 times stronger than cyanide. So if you got a chemist, if you give them 1 spiky ball, the 3 castor beans inside, he takes the ricin out of it chemically, turns it into something injectable, you'd have enough to kill between 100 and 1,000 people per spiky
Crazy,
ball.
just
Just
for
one.
one.
Just by one ball. And ricin is
mad.
it's a poison, actually. I think it's a lot more modern uses, actually, that we've not actually covered a lot of them on the show. People message us a lot and say,
Well, there's a
what
lot
about
of
ricin?
Russian things, aren't there?
Yes.
Things sort of stabbed with
So
umbrellas
the
and the like.
most famous one's Georgy Markov.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he died. There is no antidote. However, 3 years after Georgy Markov, there was a guy called Boris Karelov, I think is the way you pronounce it, in Virginia. He was a Russian who defected, spied for the CIA for about 20 years, defected across to America. They set him up with a new identity, but the Russians figured out who he was and where he was. And as they were walking along the street one day, they had their own umbrella, and they fired a little air pellet from the umbrella into Boris.
Yeah.
Boris ran to the hospital saying, I've been shot, probably by the Russians. It's a good chance it's poisonous, because he remembered Markov not too long before. So they took him in. He'd been shot and the bullet had gone into his kidneys, the little pellet. So they scanned his kidneys. Kidney doctor for the hospital is dealing with it. And then the CIA bring their doctors in and they're like, just cut it out, we'll get rid of it completely. Kidney specialist is, no, look, we've taken a scan when he first came in, taken a scan a few hours later. His body's putting a layer around this, thinking it's a kidney stone to protect him. We give him muscle relaxants and a few days later, he's just going to pass it.
Did he?
Wow.
And that's what happened.
Well, if the body was able to fight it.
So if
If it had gone anywhere else,
Anywhere
though,
else, it would have
anyone
killed him.
else, he'd be dead.
somebody comes running towards you with an umbrella, turn your kidneys towards
Kidney.
him.
Kidneys first. Kidneys first. Then you have to try to remember where your kidneys are. In my case, here's my head. I don't know.
Most poisonous tree in Britain,
Yay.
yew tree.
The yew tree.
So every part's poisonous, except for the red berry. You can eat the flesh of the berry, but the pip or the aril is the poisonous bit. So it doesn't really taste of much. People call it like a sort of watery strawberry, but you don't get much on it, so there's not really a lot there. So it's really not worth the risk, we say. Take it in your mouth, suck the juicy bit off, spit the pip out, and in theory you're safe. But people have died when it scratched a tooth on the way out.
Right.
So it is really, really strong. It can kill you in as little as 20 minutes. And the nasty thing about yew poisoning, the rest of the tree, a little bit longer, about 2.5 hours generally. And it takes about a cupful of the little kind of needles. That's enough to kill somebody. When they die, they'll generally fall asleep. About 10% will get sick, but most people just fall asleep, feeling cold, and the heart stops when they're asleep. So they never even realise they've been poisoned. Don't have a chance to get to hospital.
The yew trees sort of figure so highly in folklore and old sort of fairy tales and mythology and everything like that as this either a good luck symbol, but more often than not actually a portent of witches and sort of evil, because it can kill you. It's very pretty though.
Then we got this one. So this is completely safe now,
Okay.
but this is Veratrum nigrum or black false hellebore. So it's got a seed. The flowers that haven't got the seeds there, they didn't get pollinated. In the summer, really, really pretty.
Yeah.
The tiny little gold bits, that's the pollen. That's the danger. So if you lean in close to see one of these pretty little flowers with the gold bits on, and your nose gets too close to one of the other pretty little flowers, and you breathe in through your nose, the pollen's up there like a rat up a drain pipe. And it's really, really irritating to your nasal passage. So it's going to make you sneeze. And that's all it's going to do. All it's going to do is make you sneeze, but for more than an hour. We used to put it in sneezing powder.
Oh, right.
We don't anymore because how dangerous it is. So you sneeze for more than an hour, which doesn't sound that bad, but 1 in 5 people can't sneeze for that long without getting a nosebleed. And there's an anticoagulant in the pollen. So once it starts bleeding, it's not necessarily going to stop. In theory, you can bleed to death just from sniffing the flowers.
What a way to go.
Yeah.
Has that been in a book? Yeah. Has
That
that been
needs
in
to
a
be.
story?
So we had 2 years ago in December when it was even worse than this. So there's nothing on it. There's no flowers left. just the seeds. Told that story, the guy was stood 10 foot away, so not even close to smelling it. Nosebleed. It's all psychological.
So, yeah, just spontaneous.
It just started having a
It
nosebleed.
stopped quick enough, but
Yeah. But was he going, I'm dying? Was he going, I've been
he
poisoned?
was really worried.
Yeah, I would be as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The power of the mind, though. I think that's, one of the most interesting things of hearing what the mind can do when you hear these stories.
Rhododendron.
Yes.
So rhododendron, incredibly poisonous, incredibly invasive. The two things are linked. Poison's called guaianotoxin. It's in every part of the plant, but it's only really poisonous if you eat it. The poison molecules are large, so they're not going to go through your skin. Takes about 5-6 leaves to kill you. We can't find anybody that's ever died from eating rhododendron because it tastes so nasty. But the poison ends up in the soil all around it. It stops other plants from growing near it. The way we've got it all set up, we've got foxgloves near it. They're in their own separate pots, so the soils aren't mixing.
Right.
If it wasn't like that, they wouldn't be able to grow that close.
Oh.
So nothing would grow near it. And it'd expand. And that's what happens at the country houses, the estates and stuff like that. And it gets bigger and bigger. And if it gets big enough, and there's a honeybee population nearby with no other flowers to go to except for the rhododendron, the honey they make is poisonous to us.
Yes.
So they call it mad honey or
Mad
Delhi
honey.
balm.
Yeah, there's lots of stories, Agatha Christie stories and everything about that. Roman stories about that.
Yeah,
and
there's
various
lots
soldiers.
of them using it in warfare.
Oh, we want to put our problems aside. Have this honey. And, why are you laughing? I don't know. So don't have rhododendrons,
Yeah.
everyone. But that's usually only for the people who have a huge country estate.
Savinca major or periwinkle. So you get the beautiful kind of bluey purple flowers through the air.
Yes.
If you eat it and you need to eat a lot of it, it's going to destroy the white blood cells in your body. And that's going to end up killing you. However, tweaked in a lab, the two poisons, vincristine, vinblastine, are used in leukemia medication.
Wow.
And it's changed the outcomes from 10% survival rate for kids to over 90% survival rate for kids.
Wow.
Fantastic.
So you're using a poison to kill the cancer rather than the child.
Well, a lot of poisons are in modern medicine now.
Got the big bush.
Yay! What could it be?
So this is cherry laurel, but all laurels have the same issue. In the leaves, just sitting there, completely safe at the minute, 2 chemical compounds, completely safe at the minute. But if an animal comes up and starts to chew on the leaves, or you've got a powered hedge cutter, go and chop, 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 it mixes the 2 compounds together, and when they mix together, it forms cyanide. And what cyanide does is it stops your blood taking in oxygen properly, so even though you can breathe fresh air, your body can't use it. Now, if you're cutting this with a powered hedge cutter for as little as 20 to 30 minutes on a hot, still day, no wind, you can end up with a little bubble of cyanide all around you. Not enough to kill, but enough to knock you unconscious. But if you go unconscious with a powered hedge cutter in your hand, it doesn't end well.
No.
The warning sign is the smell of almonds, or that marzipan-y smell. That's the same smell as cyanide. Problem is, about 20% of men can't smell almonds. It's a genetic defect. I've got it, I can't smell them.
Can you not?
With women, it's less than 3% have that genetic defect.
Yeah.
So women should be doing all the hedge cutting.
Much safer.
Once you've got the cuttings, if you burn it, the smoke's incredibly toxic. It has killed people just putting this stuff on a bonfire, standing too close to it, and the wind changes direction. If you put the cuttings in the boot of the car to take to the tip, build up with the vapours in the boot, it comes through the back seat, knocks everybody in the car unconscious. That happens about 5 times a year.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
So if it's in the car, windows open, don't stick it on a bonfire, only cut it on a windy day.
We used to have a massive laurel hedge in our garden, and we'd just spend ages on the hedge trimmers cutting it back. We'd be like, oh, I'm really tired after that.
So
God.
I've had it twice this year where somebody's phoned into the gardens and it's been passed along to me for to phone them back, where they've cut laurel at home and it's affected them. And they're like, what should we do? Well,
Yeah.
you should go to hospital.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be phoning a
Yeah, why are
poison
you
garden.
phoning here? Yes, 999 would be the best phone number, I feel.
You know who'll know about this? The Poison Gardens. It's
Do you
like
get
a
lot-
bat phone.
Do you get a lot of that? People calling in for advice and things on
A lot of
plants?
authors.
Yes.
Oh, I guess.
We occasionally get like people that have got like childcare, stuff like that. We'll
Right.
offer them advice as well.
In terms of the authors, is there anyone you can name drop from the past that maybe has stuff out? that you've
LJ
helped
Ross.
LJ Ross,
So
really?
her latest book is called The Poison
Yes.
Garden.
Oh, I have to read that one actually.
It's really good,
Yeah.
and it features one of our guides, not me, one of the other ones.
Hey.
And then I did some work last year with Louise Minchin for her,
Yes.
her latest book, Isolation Island.
Which
Our
our friend is
is reading
reading
that at the
right
moment.
now. Oh, we can't tell her that because I think she's only part way through. Oh my God, that is
Brilliant.
Isn't it weird? That is a small world. She's literally reading that book now. Hey, excellent, gorgeous.
And then we find out, usually, because obviously I'm into poisons, I get poison books all the time. You'll look through acknowledgements and stuff and that once you've read the book, and quite often our name pops up that they've either been here or they've been inspired by
Sure.
information that they've read about here.
While we're so there's a tour going through at the moment, but what we should ask you, John, is what is your favourite poison?
So there's a plant called Chelidonium majus, and it's not because I like what it does or anything like that. It's the reaction I get off the public when I tell the story. So Chelidonium majus, or greater celandine, has little yellow flowers, look a little bit like kind of like a delicate buttercup. The stem of it, there's just like a single stem and then a flower. If you snap it, you get the juice. The juice looks like honey, and when it comes on your skin, it's going to burn your skin like you wouldn't believe. It's like the acid blood out of Alien.
Wow.
It's horrendous. So they used to use it in the past to burn away warts. So the old-fashioned name for it is actually wartwood, although there's several other plants have the same name.
Yeah.
So if you had a wart, say it was on your finger, you put 2 drops of the sap on top of it, you leave it for 20 minutes, and it doesn't matter how tough you are, you're going to be in tears with the pain. After 20 minutes, you rinse it off under some water, you'll have a blister there for a couple of days, and the blister falls away, fresh skin underneath, no wart. So it works, but it's going to hurt.
Mm.
They used the exact same procedure, using the exact same plant in the Middle Ages to treat hemorrhoids.
That's the reaction you're
Yeah,
after.
that's the reaction,
That's why I
isn't it? Yeah.
Ooh.
Why? What and
Because
how?
it
and-
works.
The way it works.
But there are soothing balms, surely. Who's choosing that one first? Who's going, you know what, burn
it
it
off.
out, burn it off. And also, as with the point we made earlier, who lined up for the experiment to see how long you left it on for?
Yeah.
Who's just like a gentle balm, maybe? Just rub it with a dock leaf. I don't know. So that's your favourite balm. That's your favourite
That's a
poison.
good one.
It has practical uses. It's very nice. I like it. Also, though, as it's Poisoner's Cabinet, do you have a favourite cocktail or a favourite drink if you're not a cocktail man?
Not really cocktail man, but gin. Quite like gin.
You like
All the
gin?
Meadowlark gins, Poison Garden gins, quite nice.
Of course. So we get the plug in there. What would you be mixing with your gin?
Orange juice, normally I'm quite
Gin and
sort
orange
of
juice?
plain, yeah.
Nice.
orange,
Very good, very good. We can recommend some gins for you. Over some cocktails, some gin cocktails. But White Lady. So it's like seeing a ghost as well, and you'd have a few of those.
Yeah, I'm not super fancy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to trying some of these gins. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was
So, yeah.
research. It's
Yeah,
important
definite
research.
research.
Of all the time that you've been working here, then you've told us a few of the stories of the people who've turned up as well. Are there any interesting things that have happened with visitors that you'd be comfortable telling us that not just involve them projectile vomiting and passing out?
We get a lot of witches,
Yes. So you said that you've done some tours with witches in the past.
and I'm talking like probably a couple of hundred a year, I would suspect.
Okay.
And some of them come dressed in the full goth gear,
Nice.
like you would expect a witch. A lot of them are just, I'm a good witch, I'm just in normal clothes. Mm-hmm. But they're really into herbalism and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And some of them get a bit uppity when you talk about the poisons, because they're using them as medicines.
Oh, really?
But generally when they're using them in tiny
Yeah.
amounts.
Yeah. Do they just not want to acknowledge that it's
No.
toxic?
So, I mean, some of them are like, you've got to take the good with the bad sort of
Of
thing.
course, yeah.
Too much anything will hurt you or kill you. It's only the odd one that's like that, but they are quite,
Vocal about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this one in the glass case of
Okay,
actually
all right.
perspex. So this is the Gimpy Gimpy.
Okay.
Comes from Australia, from Queensland area. It's the stingiest nettle in the world.
Okay.
So the leaves, just like normal nettle leaves with little stingers on them, but these stingers are a little bit longer. They're made of silica, so it's like natural version
Is that
of
like
glass.
the white sort of?
Yeah,
Like a
it
fur,
almost
you
looks
can
like a
see-
fur, yeah.
you can see
But
on
it's,
top, yeah.
it's anything but fur.
Don't stroke it.
Don't stroke it.
Don't
no.
stroke the furry plant.
So a close-up of it is,
Wow.
so there's as many of those stingers on one leaf as there is hairs on a head. And it's like being set on fire, electrocuted, and having hot acid poured on you all at the same time. But it's not going to kill you.
You wish it did.
Yeah, do you want to die?
It makes you want to kill yourself because the pain's so bad.
Seriously?
Wow.
So it was discovered in the 1880s. They had basically nothing to treat it apart from putting mud on and scraping the mud off and hoping that the stingers came out with it until 1942. And then 1942, a guy got stung with it and he basically let them experiment on them for roughly about 3 months until they found out what worked. And what worked was bathe in the area and dilute hydrochloric acid to soften the skin up,
Okay.
and then trying to take the hairs out manually. If that didn't work, 2 ways to go next. You either peel that top layer skin off, which was the easy access bit, or straight away use wax strips. Either way, you're going to use wax strips to pull the hairs out.
Yeah.
And if that didn't work, it was basically tough luck. until 2 years ago. And then 2 years ago, they made a breakthrough with the way the poison works. So you've got two main poisons in there, several others. But the two main ones are meroidines, which causes the pain. That pain's so intense that after a while, the nerves in that area should start shutting down to protect the body. But every time the second poison, the gimpy tide, detects that happening, it switches them straight back on. And that's why the pain basically will last forever.
Wow.
So 2 years ago, they figured out how the gimpy tide works, and they figured out that if you heat it, it neutralises it. So they've only done it twice so far that we've been able to find out in anger.
Okay.
Pour lighter fluid over the area, set fire to it for 4 seconds. And that flash of heat's enough to neutralise the gimpy.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That is risky. That is
It depends where
risky.
you've been stung. And the most famous sting was the guy that apparently got stung and was experimented on for 3 months. Crashed his plane in the area where this stuff grows in Queensland. Radios back to base, I've crashed, you need to come and pick us up. They told him it was going to be a couple of days before he got there. He's like, I'm in the jungle, there's loads of fruit, I'll see you in a couple of days. Turns out if you eat a lot of fruit and you're not used to it in your diet, you've got to go to the bathroom. If you go to the bathroom in the jungle in the middle of the night, you're just reaching for a big green leaf to wipe with. And that's what he used.
Oh, out of all the leaves of the entire jungle, you pick one of those.
In that area, yeah. Oh, God.
So you can see why he was willing to put up with 3 months to get rid of it.
Just get rid of it.
Would it be, so how long would it last then? Like,
In theory,
Forever.
basically forever.
Just to have this terrible, yeah, be careful of leaves.
And there's still people getting stung to this day.
Wow.
There was a lady just last year who was on like a mountain biking route that went near this stuff, and it had kind of moved past where they had the lines kind of blocked off for it, and she just hit a tree stump or something and flung her into the gimpy, and took her nearly 2 hours to get out, because every time she moved it stung her again.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
Well, don't go anywhere, people. What an incredible garden.
This is a
Incredible
terrifying
stories.
garden.
Terrifying, terrifying. I'm not surprised people pass out.
So we've got the strychnine in the little pot.
Ah.
Yay.
So it's just a little baby, so
Yeah,
no,
that is my favourite.
no fruit. But apparently there's about enough in there to kill about one person.
Okay.
And it's quite
There
a
it
brutal way
is.
to go.
Yeah.
It's not a nice way to go at all.
But on the plus side, you die with a smile on your face.
And just your back bent like a bow.
Yeah.
No, we've done a few cases where strychnine was involved and the doctor was still saying, cholera. Yep, that's what it was.
So in a similar vein to the strychnine, really, in the middle of this rosemary, we've got these brown sticky bits. This is water, dropwort hemlock. It's even worse than poison hemlock. So you get the little white flowers, tends to grow along riverbanks and streams. So if you eat 3 or 4 of the flowers, dead in about 6 hours.
Phew.
Leaves look just like parsley. Eat 3 or 4
Oh, no.
leaves, dead in about 6 hours. The roots look just like a parsnip. Eat 3 or 4 grams of that, dead in about 6 hours.
Wow.
And you'll wish it was quicker. So what's going to happen is your brain works at 100% right till the end, very much like the strychnine. It's going to cause pins and needles, starting in your fingers and toes, and then slowly working its way through your body until it gets to your heart. Every time it moves muscles, the previous certain muscles don't have pins and needles anymore, they become paralyzed. But with water, dropwort hemlock, they become paralyzed, tensed up. And you can tense up so hard, similar to how the strychnine works, that it can rip the muscle from the bone or snap the bone. Snap, snap, snap all the way through your body till it gets to your heart and kills you. But it's all right, because again, you die with a smile on your face.
And that's the main thing.
It's the main thing. They died how they lived, in agony.
Gelselium, so the one on the little climbing frame here. So Gelselium elegans, or heartbreak grass, part of the jasmine family. 2 leaves of that in somebody's soup. They're dead from what looks like a heart attack about an hour later.
Oh, don't be giving people ideas now.
And almost impossible to find on an autopsy unless you're looking for that exact thing.
Yeah, just nature provides endless poisons and endless resources.
That's pretty much it for this time of year.
That is incredible. Thank you so much for taking us around the Poison Garden. It is a really, truly beautiful site. It is lovely, and obviously it changes throughout the year.
Yeah.
We're here in autumn, which is incredibly atmospheric. The colours around us and the trees and the leaves are beautiful. Obviously the garden's changing into winter, so it's dying, but it just lends to the spookiness. But in the summer and the spring...
So in the spring, we'll concentrate on like the spring bulbs, and there's loads of those, and loads of them have got their own stories, daffodils, stuff like that. And then in the summer, everything comes into flower.
Everything's in flower.
So it looks very beautiful, and everyone's going, oh, lovely, and then,
Yeah,
oh,
well,
no.
that can't kill us because it looks really nice.
All the more enticing, yeah.
We will share information on this. We will have some videos and pictures of the garden. Please come and visit. There's all sorts of resources on there as well, and activities to do throughout the year, and find your perfect poison in the garden. John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Incredible. Feeling terrified about your garden yet? You should be. We hope you haven't been overwhelmed by the stories from the garden and that this will reaffirm the need to be very, very careful in nature. Please head to alnwickgarden.com to find out everything you need to know about their wider gardens and the poison garden. You can shop for experiences and gifts on there and make a trip there when you can. We were a guest of the gardens on our trip and we truly, heartily endorse it from the bottom of our dark hearts. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember to keep drinking, keep talking about poison, and remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.